tires hummed steadily on the empty highway, the rhythm as soothing as it was hypnotic. I hadn't seen another car in over an hour. Just me, the road, and the last orange embers of a dying sunset bleeding across the windshield. The GPS flickered and blinked, signal lost again. Somewhere along the I-70, deep in the Midwestern nowhere, I'd taken a wrong turn. I wasn't worried. Not yet. I was heading cross-country to visit my brother, a spontaneous road trip to clear my head after a nasty breakup and a draining job. Solitude seemed like a cure at first. Now, it felt like something else entirely. Then I saw it. Exit 23. No town name, just the number. A weather-worn sign that looked like it had stood there long before the highway was even paved. I hadn't seen it on the map, but it promised gas, food, and lodging. I figured I'd grab a bite, maybe stay the night. I took the exit. The road narrowed immediately, flanked by dense woods that swallowed the light. The trees pressed in close, their twisted limbs clawing at the night sky. A thick fog slithered low along the ground, moving unnaturally as if drawn toward me. After a mile or so, a flickering neon sign appeared through the mist. Rest Easy Inn, vacancy. It was a single-story roadside motel, probably built in the 60s, and it hadn't aged gracefully. The office was lit by a single buzzing bulb. I parked, grabbed my bag, and stepped into the humid night air. The air smelled off, damp earth and something metallic, faint but persistent. Inside the office, a man in his 60s with watery eyes and a crooked smile stood behind the counter. "Room 6, he said before I even asked. I paused. "I didn't tell you I needed a room." He just smiled wider. "Everyone who takes exit 23 does." His voice had the timbre of dry leaves scraping pavement. The room was basic: bed, dresser, TV with a busted remote, and yellowed curtains that fluttered despite the windows being closed. I tossed my bag on the bed and went to freshen up. When I came out of the bathroom, the curtains were still, but the TV was on. It buzzed with static, hissing like a nest of snakes. I hadn't turned it on. Click, it switched off by itself. I stood frozen. The silence that followed was too deep, too complete, like the room had exhaled all sound. I tried to laugh it off. Cheap motels are creepy. No big deal. Then I heard it, footsteps above me, but there was no second floor. I stepped outside. The fog was thicker now, swallowing the motel's edges. Room 6 stood alone in the mist. The other rooms seemed wrong. Their doors were all slightly ajar, pitch black inside. I turned back. My room door was closed. I hadn't shut it. Inside, I locked the door and shoved the dresser in front of it, just in case. I turned on the lamp beside the bed, only for it to flicker weakly before dying with a pop. Complete darkness. My phone screen provided weak light. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just 1:13 a.m. glowing coldly. Then I saw it, in the reflection of the black TV screen, a shape in the corner, tall, thin, with limbs too long to be human. It didn't move, it just was, watching. I spun around, nothing there, but the smell was stronger now, metallic and earthy, like fresh blood on wet soil. I didn't sleep. At sunrise, I grabbed my keys and ran. I didn't even stop at the office. The fog lifted slowly as I drove back to the highway. Relief surged when I saw the on-ramp ahead. I floored it. Back on I-70. Civilization. I laughed, actually laughed. I checked my phone. Signal was back. I opened the GPS. It recalibrated and showed exit 23, 0.5 miles ahead. No, I had just left. The same weathered sign loomed ahead. I passed it, again and again. Exit 23, every single time. I slammed the brakes and screamed into the void. I turned back to the motel. The office door creaked open on its own. I stepped in. The old man wasn't behind the counter. Instead, there were photos covering the walls. Dozens, hundreds. Every guest who had ever stayed. Polaroids. Names written in red ink. My photo was already there, freshly pinned. Jacob Wells, room 6, 1:13 a.m. The same time I'd seen that thing in the TV. Behind me, the office door slammed shut. Locks clicked. Lights went out. In the glass pane, I saw it again. The shape. Closer now. It wore faces. Faces from the photos. It feeds on the lost, on the desperate. It traps them in loops of fear until they break. It was my turn. I ran, not to escape, but to the only room still open. Room 6. Inside, I turned the TV on. Static. "I see you," I whispered. "I know what you are." It paused. The static shifted. And then it spoke. A chorus of voices, all mine, from 1,000 wrong choices. "You never left. You never will. You chose the road alone. We only waited." I pulled my phone, tapped record. "If anyone hears this, don't take exit 23. It finds you when you're weakest, when you think you're in control. It feeds on that lie. The screen glitched. The figure crawled out, slowly, impossibly real now, arms dragging behind it like wet ropes. I threw the dresser at it, didn't slow it. It reached out. The recording ends abruptly. No screaming, just silence. The motel sits, still and forgotten, waiting for the next lonely traveler. Exit 23 remains, and someone new just missed their turn. It started with the storm. I'd been on the road for 10 hours, driving from San Diego to visit my sister in Boise. The radio had been out since I crossed into Nevada. No cell signal, of course. My GPS froze 3 hours ago, and the last gas station I passed was a boarded-up shack with a tumbleweed jammed in the door. When the storm rolled in, it was like a curtain had been pulled across the sky. One moment, golden desert, the next, a sky so dark it looked bruised. Rain came down in sheets, fast and loud, drumming on the roof of my car like an angry fist. Then I saw the sign. Sundown Pass, emergency pull-off. It was the only break in the endless stretch of road, so I took it. Gravel crunched under the tires as I rolled into a narrow lot nestled between steep canyon walls. There was a shelter, concrete, low-ceilinged, the kind you'd hide in during a tornado. Rusted benches inside, a busted vending machine, and a single door at the back, metal, unmarked. I sat in the car for a while, rain pouring like a waterfall. No other cars came. The world outside looked washed out like an old photograph. Eventually, I decided to wait out the worst of it inside the shelter. The air inside was stale and damp, smelled like mildew and rust. I wiped rain off my face and sat on one of the benches. My breath echoed oddly, just a little too loud, like the room was deeper than it looked. I stared at that metal door. Something about it felt wrong. It didn't match the rest of the structure. It was newer, clean. No lock or handle, just a small rectangular box to the right with a red button labeled Manual Override, Dead Man's Switch. I blinked. What the hell was a dead man's switch doing in a roadside shelter? I stood and approached it, half curious, half stupid. When I got close, I noticed tiny scratches around the button, like fingernails. Lots of them. I backed away fast. My heart thudded. Then I heard a sound behind the door. A bang, once, then silence. I turned and ran back to the car, except my car was gone. The pull-off lot was empty, just dirt and puddles. I turned in circles, soaked, panicked, heart punching my ribs. The canyon walls loomed taller now. The rain had stopped, but everything was dim, too dim, like the sun was stuck behind something that wasn't a cloud. I tried my phone. No signal. I went back to the shelter. Only now, the door was open, just a crack. Darkness beyond it. Thick. Still. I should have run, should have screamed or waited for another car or prayed or something. But instead, I stepped inside. It wasn't a room, it was a tunnel. Cold metal, stretching downward at a slope. The door shut behind me with a click. Panic clawed at my throat. I pounded on the door, but it didn't budge. No handle on this side. I was trapped. Then the lights flickered on. Fluorescent tubes lining the ceiling buzzed to life one by one. Creating a path down the corridor, I followed them. What else could I do? The walls dripped condensation. The floor was sticky. I tried not to think about the smell, like rotting meat left too long in a freezer. I walked for what felt like miles. Then the hallway opened into a room, concrete, square. In the center, a desk, a chair, a flickering T monitor, and slumped in the chair, a man. He was dead. Gray skin, dried blood down his chin, eyes wide, mouth frozen in a silent scream. A pair of headphones hung around his neck. His hand rested on a red button, just like the one outside. Above the monitor, in bold digital letters, a line pulsed. Failure to maintain contact will result in release. The screen showed a timer. I backed away. The screen flashed red. Switch unmonitored, containment breach imminent. A new sound started. Thud, 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 coming closer. I grabbed the headphones off the corpse and slammed my hand down on the button. The noise stopped. The timer reset. The screen now read, Manual control engaged. Maintain pressure to hold lock. I didn't understand until I tried lifting my hand, and the door across the room, one I hadn't noticed, creaked open an inch. Something was in there. Breathing. Wet, hungry breaths. I slammed my hand back on the button. The door stopped moving. That was 6 hours ago. Every 30 minutes another message flashes. Hold the switch or release the subject. I don't know what the subject is. I don't want to know. I'm exhausted, my arm is cramping, my back aches. But every time I try to let go, even for a second, I hear it. It whispers to me, in a voice that sounds like me, begging, mocking. I found a clipboard under the desk earlier, scribbled notes, dozens of names crossed out, dates. Most of them didn't last longer than a few hours. One entry was circled in red. New personnel must not be allowed to leave. They are part of the system now. I think that's what happened to the man before me. He fell asleep, or gave up, or ran. Maybe that's what it wants. Someone to take the switch, someone to stay. Maybe that's why the shelter exists. A trap, a relay. I don't know how long I can last. But if you ever find yourself driving through Sundown Pass and the rain starts to fall, don't stop. Don't go near the shelter. And whatever you do, don't push the red button. We'd been driving for hours, 3 friends heading nowhere in particular. The kind of road trip born from boredom and the illusion that we're still young enough to outrun real life. Jack was at the wheel, humming along to some old 90s track. Marie dozed in the back seat, hoodie pulled over her head. Me, I watched the trees blur past, each one blending into the next in an endless tunnel of green. That's when the car sputtered. Jack cursed under his breath and pulled to the shoulder. We were deep in the middle of nowhere, caught between tiny dots on the map, surrounded by thick pine forest on both sides. There were no lights, no signs, no cell service. "Battery's dead," Jack muttered after checking under the hood. Marie stirred. "There a gas station or anything nearby?" I pulled out the glove box map, mostly a road trip prop, but now our only option. "There's something 2 miles back, marked Wayridge Inn and Stop." Jack shrugged. "Guess that's our best shot." We locked up the car and walked. As the sun dipped below the tree line, the world went unnaturally still. No birds, no breeze, just the crunch of our footsteps on gravel and the oppressive silence of the woods pressing in. Then we saw it, a faded wooden sign nailed to a crooked post. Wayridge Inn, rooms, meals, fuel. And below, in weathered red paint, "Welcome travelers, stay a while." The place looked forgotten, a creaky 2-story Victorian-style house with warped siding and a rusted gas pump out front. The porch light flickered weakly. Something about it made the hair on my arms rise. We knocked. A woman answered, older, maybe late 60s. Pale skin, neatly pinned gray hair. Her eyes stayed on us a beat too long before smiling politely. "Welcome. You're just in time. Rooms are ready and dinner's almost served. We just need a phone and maybe some gas." Jack said. "Of course," she said with a smile. "But let's get you settled first." We hesitated, but the chill was settling in, and none of us felt like sleeping in the car. She handed us keys. Room 3 for me, room 4 for Jack and Marie. The hallway inside was narrow and dim, lined with antique portraits whose eyes seemed just a little too lifelike. The floorboards creaked with each step. My room smelled like lavender and dust. As I tossed my bag on the bed, I caught a glimpse of something in the mirror. Just a flicker, like someone moving out of frame behind me. I turned around. The room was empty. Dinner was strange. We sat at a long wooden table in a dim dining room lit only by oil lamps. The woman served us stew. Thick, meaty, aromatic. Too aromatic. Marie took 2 bites and pushed it away. Jack devoured his without question. "You get many travelers out here?" I asked. She smiled, soft and sad. "Now and then, but most don't stay long." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, we won't be here long either." Her eyes didn't blink. "No," she said. "You won't." That night I couldn't sleep. There were sounds, a soft knock, not on my door but somewhere nearby, the scrape of furniture moving above me, a low whisper just on the edge of hearing. I checked the hallway, empty, but Jack's door was ajar. I pushed it open and called his name. Nothing. The room was untouched, bed still made, their bags gone. My chest tightened. Back in my room, I locked the door, turned off the lamp, and sat on the bed, staring into the mirror. There was something wrong with it. A crack had appeared, just a thin fracture running top to bottom, and in the reflection I saw something move. Not in the room, but inside the glass. A shape. Watching. By morning I was a mess. I knocked on every door. No one answered. The woman was gone. The lobby was cold, dustier, like it had aged overnight. I ran outside. The forest was silent, but our car was gone, not stolen, not moved, gone. So was the road, just forest, thick and endless. I turned back toward the inn, now looming and lifeless. The only way forward was back inside. The basement door was open now. I shouldn't have gone down. I know that, but Jack and Marie were gone. I had to try something. The basement was ancient, stone walls wet with dripping moisture. The air smelled like earth and rot. At the center stood a tall black mirror. Unlike the others, this one didn't reflect me. It showed Jack and Marie trapped behind the glass, screaming silently, pounding on the inside. Behind them, a creature. Tall, pale, limbs too long, a mouth that stretched impossibly wide. It stared with slit-shaped eyes. Then it turned and looked directly at me. I stepped back. The mirror rippled. It was trying to come through. I ran, but something in me snapped. I couldn't just leave them. I grabbed a wall-mounted oil lamp from the hallway and went back. This time, I stood in front of the mirror. "You don't get to keep them," I whispered. The creature's grin widened, revealing rows of needle teeth. Then I hurled the lamp. It shattered on contact. The mirror exploded with a scream. Not glass, but something alive. Flames roared up from the base. The surface of the mirror bubbled like boiling tar. And then, a blast of cold air. Silence. Jack and Marie lay on the floor, coughing. They were real, alive. Marie sobbed. We were trapped in a dark space, like between places. Jack's face was pale. "I saw it watching you." It smiled. I didn't speak, just helped them up. We stumbled outside. The inn behind us now looked like a corpse. Walls collapsed, porch caved in, the sign half swallowed by vines. Our car was back on the road, hood still up like nothing had ever happened. The engine started on the first try. We drove without speaking, hearts still thudding. Weeks passed. Life moved on, almost, but I find myself avoiding mirrors now, because sometimes in the corner of my eye I still see it. A tall figure, in the glass, waiting and smiling.